that lock because they felt they needed it. And of course, they possessed a Hyundai and a Kia. 10 also will be distributed to St. Peter Claver. And so thank you to Pastor Johnny there. And 10 to the Rock of Ages. And so Pastor Everett, again, want to say thank you to our faith-based leadership. Year-to-date stats comparing the first 5 weeks of 23 to 22 show that total crimes against persons continue again to be trending in the right direction, going down. We're about 23% this week. Homicides down 15%, armed robberies down 36%, carjackings 64%. We're seeing. Also, as of February the 2nd, there were, we ended January with 22 homicides, and moving in to February, we're just looking good and wanting to continue to encourage our people to do the right thing. And of course, if you see something, say something. 2023 clearance rate, as we look at, currently at 54%, and solve rate is at 68%. What we're also doing is making sure that we're tracking arrests that are made, and solid arrests by the New Orleans Police Department. Our officers are diligent, they're working, and really are protecting and serving. And so again, we're wanting to have a laser focus on the data and also tracking those arrests so that, again, accountability at every level relative to our criminal justice system is foremost the priority. Also wanted to touch on resilience and sustainability efforts. Earlier this week, I was joined by the president and CEO of Audubon Institute, Ron Foreman, and Entergy CEO, Ms. Deanna Rodriguez, along with Councilman Eugene Green and Councilman Oliver Thomas, as we unveiled 4 electric vehicle charging stations now positioned at Audubon Zoo, with 30 additional stations on the way. And this was all a part of a pretty robust data collection method in terms of engaging our community, looking at the most prone areas, vulnerable areas, to ensure that there's accessibility, of course, equity when it comes to charging stations being distributed and located throughout the city of New Orleans. It only, again, just shows how the strength of partnerships with our corporate companies, as well as with corporations, businesses, and of course with government, that we can do the right thing, and we are doing the right thing in our city. Another opportunity I wanted to highlight was, again, this year as we look at a more sustainable carnival season. So working with our partners, New Orleans and Company, Grounds Crew, and the Can Manufacturers Institute on our resilience and sustainability project with recycling, Mardi Gras beads, and the like, any throws that can be recycled. So we need, and we're calling on, and we do have recycling volunteers that will be distributing free collection bags to all of our residents and visitors throughout route. And looking primarily from St. Charles Avenue, from Napoleon to Poydras, starting uptown, all our uptown parades, but this will be starting February 11th and 12th and proceeding February 18th and 19th. Again, we're looking for volunteers to join in this effort. We're at the forefront of climate change, no doubt, and everything that we can do to protect ourselves, protect our city, is what we're going to do. And I have to say, all eyes are on the city of New Orleans as it relates to not only on the front lines, but how we're dealing with it, how we're adapting to climate change, even in the midst of carnival season. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, John, and you can walk us through any Q&A coming from our partners here. Good morning.
The question I have for you is, we've been covering on the DA's office, kind of dropping the ball when it comes to filing some charges in a timely manner for the specific case where a man was carjacked and robbed allegedly, with 2 juveniles he was trying to charge adults, but he missed the deadline. Do you have any thoughts on the ball that was dropped in this case?
Well, one of the things that we have always highlighted is the need for the criminal justice system to work collaboratively and in partnership in order to not only make our city safe, but to keep our city safe. And so we're continuing to push that partnership with our DA. Our chief, our superintendent, has been in direct communication and really wanting to strengthen how we work together, because we're all in this together, and it requires it if we're going to ensure that accountability is at every single level, and more importantly, to keep criminals off the streets of the city of New Orleans. So this isn't new information. This is something that we've actually been speaking about repeatedly and really ad nauseum, if you will. So it is just the perfect opportunity just to solidify a working relationship and a partnership with the city of New Orleans and all agencies relative to ensuring public safety in our city. The DA is one of them, and I'm encouraged, and I will continue to be encouraged as we're looking at data, as we're tracking arrests that are being made by NOPD, and also holding everyone accountable, including ourselves, in making sure that the right people are off our streets, are arrested, and they stay off the streets of the city of New Orleans.
So how do you hold someone like the district attorney's office accountable when you do miss a deadline like this?
Sure. So how does it happen? One, understanding that that office is elected as well. So just as you hold me accountable, right? Just as you highlight, issues and the like, I think that it's only fair that when we're looking at criminal justice and the system operating collaboratively in the spirit to ensure public safety, that all branches are held accountable. And so that's where I am, that's where I stand, and that's where it comes with you all kind of being the watchdogs as well, holding all of us accountable to that.
Fox 8 and then the advocate.
Right, Madam Mayor, we obtained information that when you frequent out of town, you only take one person from your four-person detail, even though those three remaining people do get paid a hefty amount. Any idea of what they're being paid for while you're out of town, only taking that one person?
So first of all, my executive protection team, I will not and I do not feel the need to, as it relates to my well-being, my safety across the board, however that is and however that needs to show up for me and my protection. And so with that, EP, they're working. Whether they are with me or not, they're doing the job for me and of the people of the city of New Orleans. And that is, one, aligned with the executive protection guidelines and how they serve me in this capacity.
Right, but no information as to what they might be doing?
Oh, I know exactly what they're doing. They know what they're doing, as well as the superintendent as well. But the constant focus on my executive protection, one, is unfair, and it also puts not only me in jeopardy, it puts my protection team as well, meaning their safety in jeopardy. And that's something that I will not stand for, cannot tolerate, and it's unfair. So that's where I'm going to stay on that regard. Okay, thank you.
The advocate and then WGNO.
We get an update on the crime task force, how many times they've met, what their current focuses are, what they've been doing.
So they meet weekly, as we've been sharing with you. A part of the work that they've been doing is helping us to solidify additional partnerships. And so when I talked about the locks, the wheel locks, that's also in partnership and in consultation with our task force. But looking at data, helping to influence where we target, and also working with other city departments as we talk about quality of life issues across the city of New Orleans. So they're meeting and they look at that data, look at trends and other areas that we can lean in terms of other departments to ensure the level of collaboration and the holistic approach to curbing violence in our city.
Any further idea at this point when they might present something to the public or when they might meet in public?
Well, that's forthcoming. That's forthcoming, but the work is happening, and I would say that it really is having an impact on the results that we're seeing. And even just the collaboration, it kind of goes back to how do we push for a greater accountability with other law enforcement partners and agencies? That task force is one of them. Having all of our partners at the table, it's critical. So not only our courts in terms of our chief judge there, the DA, the NOPD, our chiefs there. So it's, again, it's working the way that it was intended.
WGNO and then WDSU.
Madam Mayor, you alluded to the car locks for the automobile in an effort to combat the auto thefts. You saw the numbers this morning, and yes, they certainly are trending in a good direction, but the two that stand out is the auto thefts, up over 100% last year. The other one is home burglaries. That is up, I think, 81%. Pretty scary stuff for homeowners and residents here locally. Is there a specific task force that is addressing those two issues as it relates to crime here?
Yes, so our superintendent definitely has her task force and handpicked officers that she has working in special ops, specifically on these key areas. So home invasions is absolutely one of them, auto thefts, and of course homicides. So these are things that the superintendent is laser focused on, and we are just starting, we are seeing trends moving in the right direction. Although still high, we're seeing results based on that work that's happening, and solid arrests that are being made by our officers. And again, that's why, again, focusing on those arrests made, but tracking those individuals as they move through the system.
The home invasion or the home burglary stuff, have we pinpointed whether that's a specific group of people, or does this appear to be random currently?
Well, it's a mixed bag, but again, the superintendent has aligned her strategy with what they're seeing, meaning the intel and what the data is showing us. And so based on that, she's utilizing it to, again, deploy special operations relative to home invasions, auto thefts, as well as homicides in our city.
WDSU?
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you. Always so kind. I appreciate that.
I know you were recently in DC, and while there, talking to some federal partners about help to specifically target crime here in New Orleans. We were at a council meeting yesterday where we heard from your interim superintendent, who I think was well received by the council. She said specifically the U.S. Marshals have agreed to come here and help with some, I guess, targeted serving of warrants, that kind of thing. I don't know if you have any more information about that, and then also just if there are any other outcomes from those requests that were made when you were in DC.
Sure. So we are continuing to see that the partnership with the White House is very effective for the city of New Orleans in terms of combating violent crime. The asks of our partners, the administration, the Biden administration, relative to the U.S. Marshal, it just continues to pay dividends, making the ask, and not only making the ask, but just seeing how we're getting just a renewed partnership. We see that it helps us. We're able to turn over, meaning our superintendent and our district captains are able to turn over key individuals that they're targeting, that they know have warrants out for their arrests, that they know getting them off the street will only move us in the right direction in terms of keeping this city safe. And so we also understand that we could utilize additional capacity from our U.S. Marshal. We proved that to be effective in early stages, the last quarter of 2022. That's what prompted me to make the ask again. And so as a result of that, we're just staying focused on key warrants to make these arrests. And so I'm very happy about it. I'm confident that as we continue to show results, that we'll continue to have this robust partnership with the U.S. Marshal. We're also seeing the same, I would have to say, with the ATF, with strengthened partnership coming from the Biden administration. We're seeing guns in our efforts to get guns off the street. And I'm hopeful, especially listening to President Biden on last night in the State of the Union. Again, these partnerships are driving results, good results in our city. And we want to continue to highlight them so that the federal government understands that the partnership is working. It's a win-win, if you will.
If I can ask another question, not to belabor the point that was asked earlier, but about the situation with the Bridge City escapee and the carjacking. I'm curious, just, was there an emotional reaction? Was there frustration from you when you just personally heard that news? I think a lot of people were upset that a seemingly strong case fell apart because of some reason like that.
Yeah, I would say this. When you have been identifying issues and breakdowns within the system, it is frustrating that now we're starting to understand the overall impact. This is something that we've been talking about. And it's unfortunate that it has to take this to happen for people to pay attention. But we've been sounding this alarm time and time and time again. My hope, though, now that we're focused on it collectively, that we can do all that's necessary to where everyone is held accountable, not just NOPD, but we're going to do that. And as the mayor, I'm going to make sure of it. But in other areas where I don't have direct control, we just want a robust and an effective partnership and to work in collaboration, because I'm convinced that we do want the same thing. We want a safer city, and it takes all of us.
And your last question?
Yeah, I do have another question. Mayor, any updates on the Mardi Gras plan or any changes that we, don't know about just yet? And finally, the Inspire NOLA, the charter people, this week are having a fairly unique, call to action or presser tomorrow to address student safety, students that participate in our Mardi Gras parades, and a call to the public to sort of be cognizant of our kids. Would you speak to that for us?
So, first of all, I have to give it up, for the leadership of Inspire NOLA. Jamar McNeely and his entire executive team and principals and faculty and staff at all of their schools. They always lean in. They do. They are real examples of how we should be doing the outreach to our young people in schools, particularly taking some ownership in that, and wanting to not only effectively communicate with our students, but the parents and parents and guardians as well, but just instilling in them that we all have a responsibility. They too have a responsibility that impacts their direct safety as well as their colleagues and their peers. They even started the love campaign, saying, hey, we need a little bit more love around here. So they came to City Hall, they came to the chamber, but they have also been being very creative of getting out in the community. So I am behind them 100%, and I'm encouraging them to just keep it up and keep it going. But I have to give it up to the leadership. But it's a good thing and a step in the right direction. There was another thing you asked me, and I just totally forgot. Okay.
Changes to Mardi Gras.
Okay. So on tomorrow we will have pretty much all hands on deck press conference, everything Mardi Gras. So I will have my official briefing by my Homeland Security team and all partner agencies, Unified Command, who will be helping us and serving during Carnival season. So more of that will come to you on tomorrow. More details, I believe, that you're looking for will come on tomorrow.
Last question, WDSU.
Sorry, I couldn't let LBJ have the last question. We have had a few weekends of parades rolling in the city. Just your take on, it doesn't seem, from my understanding, there have been any major issues involving crime, cars being broken into around the routes, that sort of thing. Just your take on how it has gone so far with those few parades that have rolled.
Well, listen, I can't just understate the hard work of the men and women of the New Orleans Police Department. They do it best. And the redeployment strategies are working. The special ops that have been deployed by the superintendent, they're working. I believe us calling and pleading to the public as well. We want a safe city, and everyone has a role to play in being responsible for themselves and their surroundings, seeing something, saying something. Also, even as it relates to our social aid and pleasure club or our second line community, sidewalk was larger this year than last year, no incidents at all. So I just have to give it up really to our residents who are wanting to revel and take part in events like no other, in our city, and they're doing the right thing, and I want to encourage them to continue to do that and be the example for even the visitors that will come to the city of New Orleans. But I believe that we're demonstrating we know how to do this. We know how to celebrate safely, and wanting to encourage everyone, to celebrate safely in the city.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you so much.
When's that presser tomorrow?
My briefing is at 10. Yeah, thank you.
LBJ, you're my shot.